"See what?" Gorkhan replied, still watching the human. "The reason no one should fight a human barehanded." The elder warrior's mandibles twitched in something that could have been amusement or concern. "They do not break the way. Others do. They do not tire the way others do. They are something else." Gorkhan scoffed. "You give them too much credit." The old warrior merely clicked his mandibles. "Perhaps, but I have fought humans before. It was a long war, and I learned one thing. When a human refuses to fall, it is not their body that keeps them standing. It is something far worse." Gorkhan frowned, but said nothing. The elder warrior left him with his thoughts. He had seen thousands of warriors fight, had crushed countless challengers in this very arena. But something in the way Carter carried himself, the way he had studied his opponent before striking, unsettled him. Carter's next fight began, and Gorkhan forced himself to watch without bias. His opponent this time was a towering insectoid, one of the Silkara, a species known for their six-limbed combat techniques. The insectoid moved with blinding speed, its extra arms a blur as it struck from multiple angles at once. Carter didn't try to match its speed. He let it strike, dodging, deflecting just enough to avoid serious damage. He shifted his stance, adjusted his timing. The crowd gasped as Carter began predicting the alien's attacks, moving before the insectoid even struck. Then Carter acted. He caught one of the alien's arms mid-strike, twisted at an unnatural angle, and wrenched it out of its socket. The Silkara shrieked, its balance thrown off, and Carter capitalized, grappling, sweeping, slamming his opponent into the ground. It was over in seconds. The next fight was against a behemoth from the Durzak clans. This one was all brute force, a creature that fought by overwhelming its enemies through sheer endurance. It took blows that would crush lesser beings and kept going, its thick hide absorbing punishment like a living fortress. But Carter endured. The Durzak fighter swung with the force of a meteor strike, and Carter took the hit, rolling with the impact, dispersing the force. He got back up. Another strike, another knockdown. Carter stood again, a third, a fourth. The alien started breathing heavier. Its swings lost some of their edge. Carter was still standing. The watching warriors muttered among themselves. This was unnatural. No fighter should be able to withstand so much damage. And yet Carter's stance never wavered. His eyes never lost focus. It was as if he was waiting for something. And then it happened. The Durzak warrior hesitated. Just for a fraction of a second. That was all Carter needed. He struck with the speed of a coiled predator, targeting the weakened spots he had identified over the course of the fight. The behemoth, exhausted, couldn't react fast enough. It staggered, collapsed onto one knee, and before it could rise again, Carter wrapped an arm around its massive throat and squeezed. The crowd held its breath. The unthinkable was happening. The Durzak warrior tapped out. Gorkhan clenched his fists. The arena had changed. Something was different now. The energy in the air was no longer just excitement. It was laced with unease. Fighters who had been eager to challenge Carter earlier were now quiet. No more mocking laughter. No more dismissive sneers. They had all seen the same thing. Carter wasn't winning through brute strength alone. He was reading his opponents, understanding them, breaking them down piece by piece. And worse, he wasn't afraid. Most species feared losing. Fear crept into their movements, made them hesitate, made them cautious. But Carter, he took hits that should have shattered him and came back stronger. He adjusted. He adapted. Gorkhan realized something then. Humans didn't fight to win. They fought to outlast, and that was far, far more terrifying. The arena was silent as Carter and Gorkhan stepped forward. The human had fought through every challenger, proving time and time again that his species was not to be underestimated. But now he stood before the undefeated champion, the towering behemoth that had crushed every warrior before him. Gorkhan was wary. He had seen what Carter could do. But in the end, he was still larger, still stronger. He would not fall like the others. He could not. The gong sounded. Carter moved first, not with an attack but with a step. Light, calculated, his body relaxed yet coiled like a spring. Gorkhan lunged, his massive fists swinging with the force of a collapsing star. Carter ducked, sidestepped, barely avoiding the strike by a hair's breadth. Another swing, missed. Another, dodged. The crowd murmured. Gorkhan pressed harder, his strikes becoming faster, but Carter was always just out of reach. Every attack Gorkhan threw only seemed to put him in a worse position, forcing him to readjust, and then Carter struck. The arena pulsed with anticipation, a grand coliseum carved from obsidian and reinforced with metals harvested from dying stars. Towering banners of various species fluttered in artificial wind, each representing a warrior who had claimed victory. In this sacred tournament, thousands of spectators, battle-hardened warriors and rulers alike, filled the stands, their guttural roars and clicking mandibles blending into a cacophony of excitement. At the center of it all stood Gorkhan, a living legend. His crimson-hued exoskeleton gleamed under the arena's harsh lights, a testament to the countless battles he had won. He loomed over the competition, a mountain of muscle and chitin, his forearms crossed over his barrel-like chest. No being had ever bested him in unarmed combat. He was an apex predator among warriors, his name spoken with both reverence and fear across the galaxy. The tournament welcomed only the strongest, those who had proven themselves in battle, the contenders. This cycle were no different. Hulking beasts, towering brutes, all armed with natural weapons designed by evolution for slaughter. It was a test of pure physical dominance, a display of what the universe had to offer in terms of raw, unrelenting power. Then, the human walked in. Sergeant Jack Carter was an anomaly in this blood-soaked spectacle. Average in height compared to the monstrous beings around him, his physique was lean rather than hulking. He lacked the bone-plated armor of the Zorath, the venomous barbs of the Kashyyyk, or the steel-crushing jaws of the Tharnak. The moment he stepped into the pit, the crowd erupted, not in cheers but in laughter. Gorkhan smirked, his mandibles clicking in amusement. "They send a soft skin? This will be a short tournament." The warriors around him shared his sentiment, some placing quick bets on how fast the human would be broken. A few argued over whether Carter would even land a single blow before his bones were pulverized into dust. Perhaps humans believed themselves cunning, a six-limbed fighter sneered. "A mistake. This tournament is for warriors, not scavengers." Carter said nothing. He merely rolled his shoulders, stretching as he glanced around, taking in his surroundings. His expression was unreadable, not arrogant, not fearful, just observant. A reptilian brute named Korak was the first to challenge him. Twice Carter's size, covered in thick, scale-plated armor, Korak moved with the confidence of a predator about to tear apart its meal. The announcer barely finished calling the match before Korak lunged, his claws slicing through the air with bone-crushing force. Carter moved, not with speed beyond sight, not with supernatural ability, just fluid, practiced efficiency. He pivoted, letting the attack brush past him by mere inches. Korak's momentum betrayed him, his heavy body overextending just enough for Carter to capitalize. A sharp strike landed at the base of the reptilian's skull, a place where the thick plating thinned just slightly for flexibility. The alien stumbled, the crowd went silent. Korak roared and swung again, this time more cautiously, adjusting his footing. Carter ducked, weaved and countered. Each movement was calculated, each strike surgically placed. A blow to the side of the knee forced Korak down a notch. A precise jab to the throat interrupted his breathing. Then came the finishing move. Carter caught the alien's arm mid-swing, twisted, and with a powerful pivot, slammed Korak into the ground with bone-shattering force. Dust settled. Korak did not rise. Silence stretched across the arena. Then a ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. This was not how fights were supposed to go. A human, a creature they dismissed as physically inferior, had just dismantled one of their own. Gorkhan narrowed his eyes. The human had not won with brute strength. He had not relied on overwhelming force. He had used something far more dangerous: technique. Gorkhan had never given humans much thought before. They were a minor species in the grand hierarchy of warriors, unremarkable in strength, lacking the sheer brute force of Tharnak warbeasts or the natural weaponry of Kashyyyk hunters. But after watching Carter dismantle Korak, a warrior twice, his size, something gnawed at the back of Gorkhan's mind. It wasn't just luck, it wasn't just speed, there was something else at play. He found himself watching Carter more closely, tracking his movements in the waiting chambers between fights. The human showed no signs of arrogance, no signs of the bravado expected from someone who had just humiliated a larger opponent. He simply prepared for his next match, rolling his shoulders, stretching his muscles, breathing slow and steady. It was methodical, calculated. A raspy voice broke Gorkhan's focus. An elder warrior, his exoskeleton dulled and cracked from centuries of combat, stood nearby, watching Carter as well. "You see it now, don't you?" the old one murmured. A single jab, quick, almost dismissive, hit Gorkhan's ribs. It didn't hurt, not really, but it registered. Then another, this time to his side, a third to the joint of his massive arm, annoying, like insects biting at his skin. Gorkhan growled. This was a fight, not some child's game. He stepped forward and swung his full weight into a devastating strike. Carter dodged. But this time, Gorkhan was ready. He feinted, redirecting the force mid-swing, and clipped Carter's shoulder with enough power to send the human staggering. The crowd roared as Carter stumbled back, rolling his shoulder, testing it. Gorkhan bared his teeth in satisfaction. Finally, he had landed a hit. He charged forward, pressing the advantage. Carter kept moving, avoiding the worst of it, but Gorkhan could feel the tide turning. He was bigger, stronger, faster. It was only a matter of time. Then Carter did something unexpected. He smiled. It wasn't cocky. It wasn't taunting. It was something worse. It was the smile of a man who had just figured something out. Gorkhan hesitated for just a moment, but Carter moved instantly. He lunged inside Gorkhan's guard, slipping past the massive fists, and struck. Not with strength, not with brute force, but with precision. A strike to the throat, a kick to the knee, a sharp blow to the nerve cluster at the base of Gorkhan's skull. For the first time in years, Gorkhan staggered. Rage flared inside him. He refused to lose. He swung again, putting every ounce of power into his strike, and this time it connected. The impact was thunderous. Carter's body hit the ground hard. The audience gasped. For a moment everything was still. Then Carter moved. Slowly, deliberately, he pushed himself up. Blood dripped from his mouth. His breathing was heavy. His body had taken damage, but he wasn't done. Gorkhan had seen this before. Opponents struggling back to their feet, refusing to surrender. But this was different. Carter didn't just stand. He advanced, step by step, closing the distance, ignoring the pain, moving like a predator that had just found its prey. Gorkhan took a step back. The arena fell deathly silent. For the first time in his life, Gorkhan felt fear. Carter's eyes never wavered. His stance never broke. He wasn't fighting for dominance. He wasn't fighting for glory. He was fighting because it was what he was. And Gorkhan realized in that terrible moment that Carter would not stop. Not unless his body was completely broken. Not unless he physically could not move. And even then, he might still try. A memory flashed in Gorkhan's mind. The elder warrior's warning. They do not break the way others do. Carter feinted left, forcing Gorkhan to react, then slipped behind him in a blur of motion. His arm locked around Gorkhan's thick throat. Panic surged through Gorkhan as he realized he was caught. He struggled, thrashed, tried to pry the human off, but Carter's grip was like iron. Gorkhan's vision darkened, his lungs burned. His strength, once so overwhelming, drained away. His knees buckled. His body betrayed him. He had no choice. Gorkhan raised a trembling hand and tapped out. The arena erupted in chaos. Carter released him and stepped back, breathing heavily but victorious. Gorkhan slumped to the ground, gasping for air, his mind reeling. He had lost, not to raw strength, not to superior speed, but to something far more dangerous, human instinct. As Gorkhan knelt there, recovering, he finally understood why the strongest alien warriors hesitated before fighting a human barehanded, because against them it was never just a fight, it was survival. The arena, once filled with jeering laughter and dismissive sneers, now stood in stunned silence. The very same warriors who had mocked the human, who had placed bets on how quickly he would fall, now sat frozen, watching Carter stand victorious. The sheer brutality of what they had witnessed left them shaken. It wasn't just that Carter had won, it was how he had won. He hadn't been the strongest. He hadn't been the biggest, but he had endured. He had adapted, and when the moment came, he had ended the fight with terrifying precision. The warriors in the stands exchanged uneasy glances. If a single human could do this, if one soldier from Earth's military could bring down an undefeated champion, then what did that mean for the battlefield? One warrior, a veteran of many wars, muttered under his breath, "If this is how they fight without weapons, God's help us if we ever face them in war." No one disagreed. Gorkhan, still on his knees, breathing heavily, finally forced himself to stand. His pride burned. He had never been defeated, never truly known what it meant to be outmatched. And yet here he was, facing the undeniable truth. He looked at Carter. The human was battered, bruised, still catching his breath, but his eyes remained sharp, steady. There was no arrogance, no mockery, just the quiet confidence of a warrior who had been tested and had prevailed. Gorkhan clenched his fists, then slowly, deliberately he knelt. A collective gasp rippled through the arena. The undefeated champion of unarmed combat, the strongest of warriors, was bowing before a human. He looked up, locking eyes with Carter. His voice was hoarse, but the words carried the weight of absolute truth. Never fight a human barehanded. His gaze swept across the other warriors, as if issuing a warning to all. They fight like demons. They never stop. Carter said nothing. He simply nodded, accepting the respect without need for words, because he already knew, and now so did everyone else.